If you weren't around for the early 90s, it's really hard to describe just how popular Sonic was. He took over literally everything. Games, toys, clothing, cartoons, and even books. Sonic actually had a good amount of children's books come out, some I knew about at the time and others I didn't find out about until recently. Suffice it to say, Sonic was everywhere. Out of the various Sonic the Hedgehog picture books that came out, there was a short series released by Golden Books, notorious for having those books with the little flashy golden spines on them. They were loosely based on the SatAM Freedom Fighters crew as opposed to the games, and I myself actually own 2 of them. Since it's been literal decades since I've so much as thought about this thing, I figured I'd do something a little different today and talk about the first book in the series.
Now, like I said, I had a couple of these books growing up, but outside of that, I really never heard anything else about them. Never heard anyone talk about them, and really never saw them being sold again. Even now, information about these books is pretty limited, and I can really only find bits and pieces of information about them. The most complete probably being from the Sonic News Network wiki, which states that 3 books were written by John McCligg and published by Golden Books Entertainment, originally distributed through the Scholastic Book Club, and I'm pretty sure that must have been where I got mine. They were illustrated by Art Mawhinney, though the 2 creative minds behind the books never actually met. Despite this, though, John McCligg actually praised Mawhinney for accurately illustrating his scripts. Collectively, the book sold over 500,000 copies worldwide, with the first one, according to the book I have, being released in 1993. Like I said, 3 books exist. Well, technically 4, but the last one is sort of an anomaly as it isn't technically part of the same series and had a different author and artist. As for this initial trilogy, though, each book is a standalone story with its own title, but they, for whatever reason, gave each one a logo and issue number that corresponds to a respective Sonic game, despite not actually having anything to do with the games themselves. They also all strangely say special edition on the back, and I'm really not sure what that's supposed to indicate, as far as I know, there's nothing particularly special or limited about these releases besides maybe that book club thing. But even then, it would kind of be a weird thing to stamp on the back. Without further ado though, let's get into the meat of this video by taking a look at issue number 1, Sonic the Hedgehog in Sonic Shoes Blues. Gross. Hey, real quick, if you like the video, consider subscribing. It actually helps out a whole lot, and if you like what you're seeing right now and you want to see more, click the subscribe button to see when I upload. Now back to Sonic Shoes Blues. The book opens up giving us a little backstory about Sonic's homeworld, Mobius, before Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik in this case, showed up and started screwing everything up. Mobius is depicted here as a vibrant, peaceful, green planet with birds in the sky, flowers in bloom, and trees abundantly bearing fruit. And then this happens. Robotnik shows up, takes over Mobius, and rules over the planet from a city now named Robotropolis. He turns the once nature-filled world into a polluted mess and enslaves the Mobians, who are now forced to work around the clock in his robot factories. Despite this, though, the Mobians haven't lost all hope because of the existence of a team of freedom fighters hidden away in the secret underground Knothole village, led, of course, by none other than Sonic. Now, this whole introduction doesn't really have a ton to do with the plot of the story we're about to look at, as these books are more so silly side stories that border on slice-of-life situations, but I guess they give us the dark SatAM/freedom fighters backstory, so we at the very least have some context for the setting of the series. That being said, these children's books are in no way dark like the cartoon or the comic, if you couldn't already figure that out by the title of the book. Our story begins with Sonic waking up in the morning, eager to continue his fight against Robotnik, wasting no time getting out of bed and doing his daily routine. He brushes his teeth, combs his gross 90s Western Sonic mohawk thing, all at the speed of sound as indicated by these blurry blue lines. Though, despite being the fastest thing alive, apparently he can't spend the extra 4 seconds it would take him to maybe clean up his disgusting apartment. And strap in, cause that's a major plot device. So Sonic leaves his room and meets with Princess Sally, asking her where Tails is, as it's time to once again be a thorn in Robotnik's side. In a line perfectly fitting for the 90s, Sonic tells Sally he'd take her along, but the job is too dangerous for a girl. Before missing a beat though, Sally takes notice of Sonic's lack of shoes and quickly claps back, saying that he won't be going on any dangerous missions without any. Apparently Sonic was in such a hurry that he forgot to put his shoes on, so he goes back to get them. Sonic then has a nice little illustrated montage of him rifling through his filthy, disgusting room in an effort to find his red sneakers, known throughout Knothole Village as the shoes that never lose. More like the shoes that you can lose. It doesn't take him too long to realize that his shoes are nowhere to be found, and he begins to panic. Maybe if he'd clean his goddamn room, he'd be able to remember where he put things. I understand being disorganized, but this dude's got straight up food and stuff just lying on his floor, like a slob. At least he owns and frequently plays the objectively best Sonic game, though. So Tails bursts through the door like fucking Kramer and asks Sonic if he's ready to head out. The early bird makes Robotnik squirm, Tails exclaims. Sonic then tells Tails that he's lost his sneakers and asks him for help. Tails then begins to silently judge Sonic for the fact that his room is a pigsty, and though the book goes on to say both of them searched for the shoes, there's no dialogue in here indicating that Tails ever agreed. And the illustration on the next page further proves he just kinda sat there grinding more crumbs into Sonic's floor. Despite searching and searching, there were no shoes to be found. Sonic and Tails leave his room to meet with Antoine, informing him of Sonic's missing shoes. Instead of offering help though, Antoine quickly replies, criticizing him for the chaotic state of his bedroom. I mean, he's not wrong, but Sonic's like on the verge of a panic attack here. Dude couldn't even form a comeback. Though I'm beginning to realize that Sonic is probably the type of guy who's got a bottle of 3-in-1 in his shower. He begins to wonder if maybe his shoes weren't actually lost, but rather stolen, and so he calls all the freedom fighters together for a meeting. This is Rotor, or Boomer. It's never explained, but the book later on refers to him as Boomer, so I guess we'll go with that, but in any case, the book doesn't introduce him. Anyway, Sonic tells them that his shoes have gone missing, and that he believes the person responsible is actually among them at this very moment. The group then looks at each other in shock and disbelief at the fact that Sonic really be out here saying somebody's sus. It takes them about 3 seconds, though, to go from feeling shocked and maybe a bit insulted to start laughing at him for suggesting something so ridiculous. Sally initially is a little pissed and basically tells him he has brain damage, only to then make a joke about how she personally can't wait till he finds his shoes because his feet stink. Instead of wisecracking back, though, Sonic just crosses his arms in animance, waiting for the laughter to die down before continuing his investigation. He then comes up with a plan. He turns out the lights and gives whoever took the shoes a chance to return them without anyone finding out who it was. He's not interested in who took them, he just really wants his shit back. Unfortunately for him, they just kind of awkwardly sit in the dark for 2 minutes. Once he relights the lantern and can see again, everyone is left and all that remains is a note on the table saying that if he doesn't trust them, then maybe he doesn't need the rest of his team after all. The note then goes on to say that they've left to take on Robotnik without him, and rightfully so. Dude's really out here pointing the finger at all his friends like they're trying to take his shit. What are they gonna do? Paint them like a stolen car and then pawn them? In a fit of frankly unwarranted rage and butthurtedness, Sonic hops off the table and angrily claims that not only does he not need them, but that even blindfolded he's more capable than all of them put together. Why though? So the rest of the gang make their way towards Robotropolis, carrying a giant cork with the intent to plug up one of Robotnik's giant smokestacks to stop it from polluting the air. But it doesn't take long for them to start to feel a little weird about the exclusion of Sonic and lack of direction in the wake of his absence, but Sally goes on to say that there's nothing they can do about it now, and that they need to take care of the mission that they're on, Sonic or no. They intend to smoke out all the robots inside 420 Blaze It and hopefully find a clue that will help them find and save Mutsky, Sally's father, and of course, fan favorite, Uncle Chuck. To no one's surprise, Tails drops the ball, as he often likes to do, and trips over a rope which activates a bunch of booby traps, catching Tails in what looks to be a dog crate and the rest of the team in a big net. Tails says it's all his fault, and naturally no one responds to challenge that statement. Now the freedom fighters are trapped and basically just waiting for Robotnik to show up and do whatever he's gonna do with them. It's never explained, but let's cross our fingers that he's not as squirmy as Tails had hoped he would be. But what's this? Sonic shows up to save the day? Big shocker, right? What a twist! He shows up with a bag full of stuff and goes on to say he's far too heroic to let his friends down. Or, in this case, literally die. He then goes on to start giving an anecdote about his Uncle Chuck before Antoine cuts him off and goes, "Bro, nobody cares about your dumbass story. Can you just let us out?" And then Sonic's like, "Oh yeah, no problem, but hold up, I brought some stuff for you." Then the team is like, that's nice and all, but Robotnik's literally on his way to kill us, so maybe now isn't the time. But still, Sonic distributes everyone's respective gifts. Except for Tails, who I guess is assed out for getting everyone trapped. Suddenly, Robotnik rolls up and is pleased to see that he seemed to not only have trapped almost the entire team of freedom fighters, but now a shoeless Sonic. Robotnik then asks Sonic how it feels to taste defeat. What a sick son of a bitch. Sonic then whips out a pair of scissors and cuts a hole in the net, but a caterpillar begins approaching and says that even though he may be able to save some of his friends, Tails is coming with Robotnik. Oh no, anything but that. Now I won't try to break down the nonsensical non-physics that are applied here, but Sonic then lets his friends free, which sends the cork catapulting through the air, conveniently landing in and plugging the smoking pipe the gang went there in the first place to plug. His factory begins to pressurize and fill with smoke, so Robotnik has no choice but to retreat and try to prevent his factory from exploding. I guess everybody goes home, but the book never says it. The next day, Sonic invites the whole gang into his now cleaned up room, though it's inferred through this illustration that he just kinda swept shit under a blanket. As it turns out, Sonic's shoes were under his bed sheets the entire time. He's really laying in his bed with shoes on like a fucking savage. The gang then shares a typical 90s sentiment about how the super cool thing doesn't define your worth, and Sally makes the obligatory forced end story remark about Sonic having a crush on her, to which Sonic exclaims, "In your dreams!" Sonic then has one final thing to say. He explains to Tails that he was probably wondering why he was the only one to not receive a gift. As it turns out, Sonic intended to give Tails his sneakers the entire time. Tails, seeing Sonic as a role model, gladly accepted them, and then Sonic asks somebody to go with him to buy a new pair of shoes due to having now worn out 3 pairs of socks, finally giving an explanation for Sonic's grody toes sticking out of his socks from the first page. Making the moral of this story, you can treat your friends however you want, as long as you buy their forgiveness after. And that's Sonic Shoes Blues. I can sit here and joke about the storyline of the book being ridiculous, but honestly, it's pretty cool that Sonic even had children's books based on him at all, and obviously a lot of people agreed because the sales numbers don't lie. Now, like I said, this is just the first book in the series, so if you guys like this one, I'll most likely cover the other ones too. So if you were into this, let me know in the comments. Hey, thanks for watching this weird, different kind of video. If you liked what you saw, there's a couple other videos right there you can check out. And if you want to see everything I upload, subscribe and then tap the bell icon. I also have a Patreon right there too if you want to help support the channel.